Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I want to welcome you to the Self Care at Work live show. I'm Belinda Harris, and every Wednesday at 6:30 in the morning, we talk about ways to bring self-care into the workplace. Without feeling guilt, without burnout, and without losing ourselves in the process. And today's topic is something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is self care for leaders and setting the tone without burning out. And this is whether you are a manager, maybe you're a small business owner, or a team lead. You set the tone for how your team experiences work. That is what we're talking about today. And why does it even matter? And the truth is this, that if you're running on empty and your team feels it, because leadership energy is contagious for better or worse. You know that. You might have had a really good leader who had energy all the time, who set the tone all the time. You might have had that. And you might have, unfortunately, experienced a leader who is just blah, right? That's contagious. You feel that. So, as leaders, it's important that we lead in a way with intention, that we model self-care, and that we still get things done. And that's what I think that leaders need to improve on. Again, that we are modeling self-care, that we're modeling. We are doing what we encourage and hope our team does. And let me start with this, is that most times, for the most part, leaders are the first one in and the last one's out, for the most part. We're answering emails late at night. I'm guilty of that. We're solving everyone's problems, and I'm guilty of that too. And in the process, we're neglecting ourselves. And I have been guilty of that. And when that happens, when we are answering emails all night or early in the morning, when we're constantly solving everyone's problems, right? Because usually, as a supervisor, when people call you, it's because they have a problem. Especially in HR, no one calls and saying, "Have a good day, Belinda." No one says that. No one calls and say, "Have a good day." They're calling because there's some type of problem. So you deal with that all the time anyway, as a leader, for the most part. And in doing that, we neglect ourselves. And when that happens, then we get what? Irritable, grouchy, burnout. That's what happened to me. Where overworking becomes the norm. And I always tell leaders this: if you don't show your team what boundaries look like, they'll believe that work should consume them too. And so we are going to talk about a framework, the self-care leadership framework, that involves three parts. It's three parts of this framework. It's model, manage, maintain. Model, manage, maintain. So this is a three-part self-care leadership framework, and it starts with model. Model self-care. Your team watches you more than they listen to you. If you skip lunch, if you're answering emails at midnight or never take a vacation, guess what? They'll do the same, because they'll think that's what you're supposed to do to be successful. That's what you're supposed to do to move up. But what you need to do instead, what you need to show, and this is model self-care, is that you block off 30 minutes for lunch. You tell your team, I'll respond to this in the morning instead of instantly responding. You take your PTO and better yet, you encourage them to do the same. One of the things that I always say when I greet a new hire, when we're onboarding new hires, is take your PTO. Take your PTO, because our PTO doesn't run over and you don't get, doesn't roll over, not run over, doesn't roll over, and you don't get paid for it at the end of the year. If you're like, oh, I still have all these days of PTO, I'll get paid for it. It doesn't do that. So if you don't take your PTO, you're just giving it back to the company. And I tell people, take your PTO. And sometimes people tell me, well, I don't have any money to go anywhere. It don't, stay home. Take your PTO and stay home. You don't have to answer no emails. You don't have to get up to no alarm. You don't have to be at somebody's beck and call. You can be at home. One year, I always take my birthday off for every year, every time. And sometimes I take the whole week. And I remember one year, and this was a couple years ago, I took the whole week off, PTO. I painted a room in my house. You don't have to do nothing big or glamorous when you take your PTO. You can just sit at home. You can just be at home. You can just be. And we as leaders need to model self-care, that it is more, that life is more than just work, work, work. The second thing is that we need to manage our energy, not just our time. We're constantly time management, and it needs to be something that says energy management, because you can't add hours to the day. No matter what you do, you're only going to get 24. You're not going to get 25. You're not going to get 24 and a half. We all have the exact same 24, every last one of us, no matter what our position is, no matter whether we have a job or not, we have the same 24. We can't add hours to our day, but we can protect our energy, right? We can protect our energy. One of the ways that we can do that is that maybe batch communication, so you're not constantly in your inbox. Now, there are times where you're waiting for, somebody to respond to something. So you're constantly checking your emails, but that should not be the norm. This should be where you get up, and this is just, you get up, maybe you check your emails when you get to work. If that's one of the things that you do, take the first, 30 minutes or hour. I don't know how many emails you get, or maybe 10 minutes, depending on how many emails you get. Go through your emails and then set another time later in the day to check it again. But when you're constantly going back, checking emails, I'm very guilty of that. I work on that every single day, of not constantly checking emails. When you're constantly checking emails, takes your energy when you could be doing deep focus work and getting things done. So batch your communication. So again, so you're not constantly in your inbox, and protect your focus time the same way you protect client calls. So focus time is when you are focusing on a project or a task. I need to get this done. I need to get this out. Right? I have a deadline coming up. I need to get this out. And you prioritize that. You make that a focus instead of checking emails in between that. This is what I'm working on between this and this. The same way if you had a call with a potential client that you would protect that. You'd be like, this is my client call time. We need to create that for ourselves, because we need to manage our energy and not have our energy all over the place. And a lot of times we do that. We don't mean to. It's not intentional. We're just trying to get things done, but we need to do a better job of managing our energy. The last step in this framework is to maintain boundaries. Boundaries are leadership tools, not barriers. Sometimes you hear the word boundaries and it just you feel like it's negative. Like it's automatic like a negative. It's a stop. Boundaries. You feel like it's a hard stop. And you hear that and sometimes if you say that, you feel like, right? But boundaries are leadership tools. Here's an example of a leadership tools. Maybe there's no meetings on Fridays, right? You could set that boundary up. I'm not doing any meetings on Fridays. Or maybe it's I'm not doing any meetings on Friday afternoons because maybe there is a meeting that you have to go to on a Friday. But maybe you say I'm not doing any meetings on Friday afternoons. You're setting a boundary. Maybe you are saying no meetings on Mondays, but you're setting a boundary. Another example would be to communicate clearly when you're offline. And how do you do that? You say between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m., I'm doing deep focus work. And so I won't be taking any calls. I won't be responding to any emails. People know it's clear. If I email Belinda or call Belinda between 10 and 11, she's not going to take it. It's clear. There's no misunderstandings. At 11:01, she'll start responding. You communicate clearly when you're offline, when you're on vacation. I'm going on vacation, when you're taking your PTO, when you're going to lunch. You communicate those things clearly so that people can know. And then another way to maintain boundaries is to delegate because not everything needs your touch. Because sometimes we feel like our hands got to be on everything and nothing gets moved. I know people like that. They got to touch every little thing and they are the bottleneck. And you almost hate to have to go to them with anything because you already know it's going to be a delay because they already have their own work to do. And then here they come with, something else. Don't everything doesn't have to have your Midas touch on it. Not everything. Some things you can delegate away. And we need to get in a better habit as leaders of looking through things that we need to touch, and there's some things we don't. We do not need to be the bottleneck in any organization. And sometimes we are just that, the bottleneck. Practical ways of self-care habits for leaders. This is for everybody. But since I'm talking to leaders, one is micro breaks, 60 seconds of breathing before big meetings. If you're calling the meeting, you can do a 60-second break to start the meeting. If you're calling it, if you're running the meeting, 60 seconds for it to be quiet, to breathe. So everybody can kind of gather themselves. Okay, when we get in this meeting, I know it's going to be a 60-second break where we can just all kind of exhale into our seats. As a leader, you can practice that. You can implement that. Morning check-ins. This is what you can do for yourself. What's one thing I can let go of today? When you get into your office or wherever you work and you get ready to start the day, what is one thing I can let go of today? You can do weekly reflection. Did I lead in a way that encouraged balance or did I model burnout? That could be a weekly reflection every Friday. A weekly reflection of, did I lead in a way that encouraged burnout or did I model did I lead in a way that encouraged balance or did I model burnout? The last thing that you could do is that you can share one personal ritual with your team, whether it's walking or journaling or gratitude, because it normalizes it for them too. Like I talk about all the time with my team, self-care. Did you take your self-care break today? Because this is what I did, or this is the time I'm getting ready to do mine. I share that so they can see that it's normal and that it's okay for them to do the same. I'm curious, what is one boundary that you wish you could set at work right now? How do you know when you're running low on energy as a leader? I would love, love, love to know what that is. And to recap today's message, remember, leadership isn't about doing more, it's about showing people how to do it well. When you model self care, you manage your energy, you maintain boundaries, and you create a place where everyone can thrive. If you want daily reminders to practice self care at work, please subscribe to my Substack. We're doing a 30-day self care at work challenge on my Substack only, where I am talking about tips and journaling prompts and all types of things to get our self care at work going. It is not too late to join. It's Belinda Hare's self Substack. And if you're not already subscribed on here on YouTube, please subscribe today. I go live every Wednesday at 6:30 in the morning. And I want to end this with take care of yourself first. You can't pour from an empty cup. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you at the next video.